Our brains have a tremendous ability to help us survive. And in some of the most challenging and difficult moments in our life, our brains suppress those emotions that we experience so that in the short term we can survive. But in the long term, this can wreak havoc on our lives. It can affect our emotional, mental, and physical well-being. And it's only when we start to recognize this that we can actually heal. And that is what we talk about in this episode with my guest, Lindsey Preece. Lindsey Preece is a highly accomplished professional with a deep commitment to holistic healing and over 22 years of experience as a registered nurse. She runs a successful online physical health and mental wellness business, empowering individuals on their transformative journeys towards well-being. This was such a great conversation with Lindsey, and I'm so grateful for all that she shared, for her experiences, for her journey, and showing some of the things that have worked for her, and allowing her to heal, move forward in her life, and recognize that the emotions that she is experiencing can come up and that she can heal through those. And I'm so grateful for everything that she shared. I hope that really serves you well. Welcome back to another episode of Rewiring Health. I'm so honored to be joined by Lindsey Preece. So thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to kind of dive into a little bit about you, just to kind of share with my audience about your story. But what's brought you into doing what you do today and the people that you help today?
Okay, so we got to make a long story short. So my story started back when I was about 12 years old. I very happy, outgoing, confident 12-year-old little girl, and all of a sudden I was faced with sexual abuse. That I did not see coming, and what I can tell you is it really just rocked my world, if you can imagine. And so it took that confident, I hold life, I've got life by the horns, to just a quick spiral of out of control and fear and shame and guilt. And like, I hate my life, and a lot of crying and just a lot of awfulness, I can say. My mom was incredible and amazing. She believed me. She took me and got me into talk therapy very quickly. That helped. I did not love it, but it did help me to talk and to get things out. But then quickly she took me to a doctor and they put me on prescription medications. And so what I can tell you, over the next about 10 to 15 years, I lived my life kind of walking through life. I tried to just shove everything away. I'm the type A personality. I wanted to just keep living. Once the pain was numb and I felt like I could continue living, that's what I did. And I just kind of tried to forget about it, hoping it would go away. And to make a long story short, like I said, life was okay because I felt like I was pretty numb to it all and just kind of let it go. But what really happened and what really hit me was when I became a mom of my own. And I have 3 little girls of my own. And it was in those first few years of watching those girls start to grow and become, and I started to notice different things that they were doing. By this time in my life, I truly think I felt like I had healed and I was over it. Okay. And so as I started to notice different things about myself that I really didn't like, I had a lot of self-doubt. I had a lot of self-hate. I compared myself to everyone. I was never good enough. I had a lot of depression and anxiety. Truthfully, I viewed the world from a very negative lens, and I did not correlate that to the years before that suppressed trauma and abuse. And what actually happened, a huge blessing in disguise, and I like to call her my angel in disguise. I had a friend who actually one day said to me, "Lindsey, I see deep pain in you." And it took me back, and because I thought, wait a minute, I thought I was hiding this really well. And thank goodness it was a safe space for me, but I opened up to her. And I shared everything with her, clear back to the abuse, and just telling her kind of my story. She kept asking. She knew the questions to ask. I didn't. And it was her. It was her who actually helped me to recognize that everything that I was experiencing in my life now was directly related to suppressed trauma from 25, 30 years ago. And she introduced me to mind, body, and spirit healing. And it was through that I was in such a point of desperation that I would try anything. Up to this point, I had been very medically minded, very prideful in what I would do and what I agreed with and what I thought would work. And so when she opened up my mind to holistic healing, I'm a nurse, I've been a registered nurse for years, and I was on 7 prescription medications by this point in my life, and I was a mess. And thank goodness I was at the point I was at, because my mind became very open, and I just surrendered, and I just said, anything you have, just help me. And so I did everything she told me to do. And what I can tell you, we started with my mind first. And she saw that negativity. She knew there was something inside. And as she started helping me to work through those thoughts and that those lies I had been living for so long that had brought about my reality, this many years later, she helped me to start retraining that subconscious mind. And then we started going into the body and the spirit. And again, I was on 7 prescription medications, had never correlated what I had been dealing with: chronic headaches, reflux, heartburn, stomach ulcers. I mean, I had all kinds of health issues that I didn't know had to do with this past trauma, but she helped me to connect that. And as we started to unfold that, it just was this light bulb aha moment in my life. And so it was her. It was her who helped me to recognize a different approach to healing than I had known before. And so it was because through my journey of healing, within 2 and 3 days, I started feeling shifts and changes that I had never felt before in the previous however many years of therapy and prescription medications. And so I started to become really excited and hopeful about my future and my life again, and which was super exciting. And then from then on, I have started sharing my story. I have written a book. I am now a transformational coach, and on. But that's kind of the background story.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that and just being so vulnerable, because it's like those stories that, the more we share those, the more we open up about those, the more that others can feel hopefully safe in sharing their story and hopefully have the same experience that you've had and being able to release some of those emotions that you've pushed down for so long. And that safe space that your friend created for you, what a blessing, and having
Yes.
that where you
What a
can finally
blessing.
release that and allow those things to come up. Because it's like when we stuff that down, that's when we start feeling those physical ailments of having those emotions we have to keep suppressing. It's like the tennis ball, we keep pushing underwater. The harder we push it under, the more it's going to want to come up. And it's in
So
those moments
true.
that we just release, and you said surrender is so beautiful. And I love that you were able to start feeling differently in your life.
Yeah.
And can you talk about that a little bit more? So you're finally at the point where you're like, I will try anything. You start diving into the mind, body, and spirit. What did that look like? So what are some of the things that you dabbled in, or what are some of the things you tried in the moment? And what are some of the things that really started opening you up to more?
The first thing that she did with me, that is actually the first place we started my program as well, was an activity that helps you to uh, figure out. It's funny because when you're at this point, they are truths to you, because you believe them for so long. So she helped me to identify the thoughts that were in my head, period, whether they were true or not. She helped me to identify those thoughts. And then she helped me to reverse those thoughts and change them to truths, and helped me to recognize that those were actually lies that I had allowed myself to believe, no matter where they had come from, right? They might have been something someone else had said, something maybe I just believed, a comment that I did hear circulating that I took on to myself that started causing a lot of guilt and shame. And I never questioned those thoughts. I didn't know to question them. I just believed them. I just made them part of me. And unfortunately, over a long period of time, I became what I believed. And that's exactly what happens is when we do become what we believe. And so she helped me to start transitioning those lies into actual truths and helping me to see what my truths were, and then giving me a practice, a simple daily practice twice a day that I could do to start reprogramming that subconscious mind to start working for me and feeding truth into me instead of those lies that had destroyed me for so long.
Yeah, it's amazing that we carry these messages for so long. We have no idea they're even there. We're so
Yep.
disconnected from ourselves. And the
Yep.
program we allow ourselves to live on is something that was put there when we were
Yep.
kids. And I know it's amazing. I had a very similar experience with like not realizing what I was saying to myself. And
Yeah.
then when I started to become aware of it, it's like, oh my gosh, no wonder my
Yeah.
external environment looks the way it does when you
Yeah.
have internal messaging like that. So it's absolutely key. That subconscious mind has so much power behind it, but it has to be programmed in the right way
Yep.
to
Yep.
utilize it for good.
That's right.
Absolutely. And I want to go back because I know that your friend created that safe space for you and just allowed you to open up about what you experienced. But for someone who maybe doesn't have someone who's that person for them and they're listening to this right now and they know something's not right, maybe they feel disconnected from themselves and they feel like they've kind of numbed themselves. How can they create that safe space in themselves to start exploring other options?
Well, I think that it is hard because there are people who don't feel like they have a support system or someone that they can talk to. And that was me. I mean, I didn't want to share with anyone until I met her, right? But that again, that is why the very first place I start is with framing that subconscious mind and helping you to learn how to be your very own best friend, because we're always with ourself, right? Whether we have an outside support system or not, there's going to be times when you are alone. And so it's so important to start developing that. But on top of that, there are resources. And another place that I went, and you've, I don't, maybe you haven't seen my program is actually called Healing with Christ. And the reason why is because that's where I went when I didn't have anyone. I went to Christ and developing a personal relationship with him. And that saved me. It saved me for those years. It was a place for me to turn and then to continue that healing. But there are resources, and I encourage you, no matter who you are, where you've been, what you've been through, there is hope and there is healing that is possible. I can promise you that, but it takes reaching out and finding someone who can walk you through it, who's been there, who that's another great part of coaching is that I've experienced that, right? I have been there and experienced this. And there's a lot of other coaches that have as well. And so it's finding someone that you trust, that you click with, who can then start to walk you through helping you to recognize simple things that maybe are not recognizable to you at the moment, right? And that's my best advice, is to open yourself up to just find someone, watch their podcast, I have a 3-day free workshop that I do every month on purpose so people can come and learn and get to know me, to see, is this someone I feel comfortable with, to help those of us who don't have a safe place to be able to find someone they can rely on or feel safe to open up to.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I know you talk about the mind, body, and spirit. Can you talk about, we talked a little bit about the mind, the subconscious mind. I know you talked about Christ for the spirit. Can you talk about some of the body work that encompasses that?
Yes. So I've been a registered nurse for oh my goodness, 22 years now. And so my background is nursing, and I was very not holistically, I was very pharmaceutically minded, obviously, before this transformation, and hence the prescription medications, all of the things. It wasn't until I started to really learn from her holistic ways of healing our body that I learned about cortisol and inflammation and all of the things that go on inside of our bodies when we suppress emotions, and how everything is so interconnected. And it was actually really wonderful. My transformation, actually, for my physical transformation, started when I was introduced to a holistic health product that helps to lower cortisol in your body and helps to rid your body of inflammation. And my health, I got off of all prescriptions but two. And from this product. And that's what opened my mind to holistic healing. I was like, oh my goodness, my body's amazing if I just know what to give it. And also a big part of overcoming trauma or adversity is your nervous system. Trauma and hard things are stored in that nervous system, and our triggers, our responses, our anger, our irritability, things that we don't like about ourselves, is a representation of a nicked or a nervous system that is struggling. Okay. And so learning to help others recognize their nervous system, what role it plays in their life, also what inflammation and cortisol does to your body over a prolonged period of time from that heightened response and that continual cortisol release is a huge part of learning how to heal your body holistically with the food you eat, with different exercises that you do or you don't do. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can do. Learn to eat a specific way to balance blood sugar, to lower that cortisol. I mean, it's a whole new world of physical health that my body just responded to so very quickly. That's another big part of what I love to share, is to help people heal their bodies holistically.
Absolutely. And that's the thing with the body. It's always has this propensity to healing. It's just what's blocking it. And when we have things blocking it, it's never going to heal, but it always is in that movement pattern of healing. So yeah, it's a tremendous power when we remove those blocks that have been holding it back from the true thing that it's capable of.
Being
And
able to heal,
so,
yes.
yeah, absolutely. And I would love to hear, what's your daily routine like? Like, what do you do on a daily basis to keep yourself in this place where you're feeling better, you're living life with more joy? What does that look
Yeah.
like?
My and again, mine has been a transformation over 5 years. So I'm really big on simple. I'm really big on starting simple and one thing at a time, making it a habit, and then adding something else. Because if I've experienced multiple times where I tried to change 10 different things and I find myself a week in and I just throw it all away because it's too much, it's too overwhelming. And so my daily routine now looks the way it does because of adding on over the years, right? I do start with a morning routine that I think is very, very important. I like to focus on mental, physical, spiritual, right first thing in the morning. I say prayer as soon as I wake up. I love to read scripture. I love to then move into going through those positive affirmations and truths. I love to practice gratitude. These are all things that can take a minute to 2 minutes each. I then go to the gym for my physical health. You don't have to go to the gym. And then I'm very aware of, it's called a PFC diet, which I teach as well. And what it is it's just making sure each time you eat, you are eating a protein, a fat, and a carbohydrate to balance your blood sugar. Because when you balance your blood sugar, your body is happy and the cortisol levels come down. And what cortisol, if you're not aware, I encourage you to search cortisol, what cortisol does to overproduction of cortisol does in your body. And I think you will be amazed. It is pretty much all the physical health issues that you may be dealing with that you've been told you really don't have, or maybe you're crazy, or your labs don't show that there's anything wrong. Well, you know your body. And if you are struggling and you haven't been able to find it, or even if you have found a diagnosis, maybe there's another reason why you have diabetes, or you have chronic headaches, or you have, I mean, mine was stomach cold. My whole GI system was just a wreck. And it was that cortisol, those high levels of cortisol and inflammation in my body from being in fight or flight for such a long period of time. And my body, just adrenal fatigue. And so I'm really careful about, I mean, I am human. I do eat treats. I do those things, but I try really hard to stay really focused on reminding myself of truths. Any thought that comes into my mind now, I quickly question it. Is that true? Wait a minute, where's that coming from? Before I allow myself to believe it. There's just a bunch of different small things that I do throughout the day. And then I live my day being very aware of what I'm allowing to come in. And then I like to end my day as well with prayer, scripture study, and that's just kind of my daily routine.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, because I think it's always good for people just to hear what's working for someone. Not that it's, right size fits all for everyone, but it's good just to pull pieces. If there's something that resonated with someone who's listening, okay, I haven't done that before. Let me just add that one piece into my day and see how it
And
goes.
where I started was with those truths.
Yeah.
Simple reciting 6 to 7 truths to myself every morning and night. That's where I started.
Do you mind sharing a few of those?
So yeah, I have, oh man, I actually in my lessons and sharing, my example sheet is all of the thoughts that I had. And I just really disliked myself. So it went from I'm not enough. Nobody likes me. I'm a horrible mother. I'm a terrible wife. And so those truths that I then that I like to recite to myself every day is I am enough. I can do anything I want to do with God as my partner. I am a patient, kind, and loving mother. I am a selfless wife. I can do all things through Christ. Um, those are the main ones. I have some written on my mirror as well. I switch them up as I get through some, and they become my new truths, and I don't feel like they're necessary for me to continue repeating. Then I change them up to whatever is bothering me, or those thoughts that are coming in, and fixing those, and repeating new ones.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Because again, just making that transition from the negative
Yes.
self-talk to just another way of doing it. And
Yep.
one thing I would love to hear, because sometimes often those subconscious messages they've played on for so long that we're not even aware of those. How can someone start to become aware? Like they may have these thoughts in their head and they're not even, it's just going, but they're not realizing like, oh, that was the message. That was it. How can
Yep.
someone start to allow themselves to be aware of those things that are just going on in their head
Yes.
incessantly and automatically?
Yes, and this is part of the 3-day workshop that's coming up that I do as well. The first day, this is what it's all focused on, but I like to have someone take out a pen and paper and to sit with themselves for a minute and to just write down, first of all, anything negative that you have heard yourself say to yourself over the last week. And everyone's going to be at a different place. It may be multiple times a day, it may be once a week, right? But write it down. And if they're like, I just don't really think that I have anything negative, if they're struggling with it. Okay, now think of in the last week, any time that you have felt discouraged, angry, sad, not enough. What are the thoughts you were thinking in those times of discouragement? What was it that was playing in your mind? And sometimes that will trigger people. Um, I always bring God in again, because I tell them, ask. There's a reason God is there for you, and he knows you personally. Ask him to bring to your remembrance, what is it that I am saying to myself that is hurtful to me? And they will come. If people still struggle, I then encourage them to take a few days and to just live their life and to be aware. And anytime anything that is, I help them to identify something that is a lie versus a truth, being, does it make you feel happy and excited and love life, or does it discourage you, make you feel doubt, make you feel angry, make you feel sad? That's the distinguisher. If it's one that's truth, then it's a truth. If it's anything that causes any negativity to enter, that is a lie, and write it down and just help them to make a log to figure out what those thoughts are. Because sometimes it is hard to identify. Sometimes you'll have people like me. I was like, oh, I wrote them and wrote them and wrote them, and I had a list of like 12 before I even stopped. And other people are like, I know I have negative thoughts, but I'm not sure. I can think of one, which is good. If that's you, that is a good sign. Unless it's because you have suppressed them for so long that you're not seeing them as negative anymore, which is very likely, because as you start to transform them into truths and start repeating those truths, the more uncomfortable you feel stating those truths, the more you become aware that how much you believed the opposite for so long.
Absolutely. It's amazing how hidden they can be
Yeah.
when you literally have not become aware of them
Yeah.
maybe decades. So, absolutely. And for someone who wanted to connect with you and follow you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I have a private Facebook page called Healing with Christ. Lindsey Preece is my profile on Facebook. I'll also drop a link. Well, I'll have her drop a link in the somewhere on with the podcast. So you can join my private Facebook group. You can also join a workshop. I do them every month, a free 3-day workshop. My email is also Lindsey Preece at pain-to-purpose.com, or you're welcome to message me on Messenger, Lindsey Preece. LISH.
Thank you so much. And I'll put everything in show notes so that way for anyone listening can connect with you, Lindsey. And thank you again for everything you shared today on the podcast.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you. And thank you everyone who joined today. And thank you for spending your precious time with us. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Rewiring Health. I hope you found our conversation both enlightening and empowering. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to Rewiring Health so that you never miss an update. Also, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you could take a moment to rate and review the show, it would mean the world to me and help others discover the power that we all have within us to create change and create the life that we truly, truly desire. Thank you so much for spending your precious time with me and sharing the energy of the show.